You may not realize it, but you are currently funding some dangerous people. I've figured out how to monetize social justice warriors.
I'm surfing a 100-foot wave, and generally what happens if you do that is that you drown.
I've watched my Patreon drop.
I've lost 1,000 subscribers.
600 patrons, I think about $5,000 a month.
Give me some bloody money, or something you don't like will happen to you.
So I've done 2 videos on Jordan Peterson now, and we are now entering the 3rd act of this phase anyway. Boy, I can't wait for all this to be over and I can finally clear out all this Peterson pollution on my hard drive. So for this act, I'd like to focus on Jordan Peterson's PragerU appearances. Prager University! They're not a real university. It's a bunch of right-wing propaganda on YouTube. I imagine a bunch of you probably already know this since you clicked this video. These PragerU videos, they can be kind of frustrating to watch, so I'll just break it down easy and riff on the relevant points.
You are currently funding some dangerous people. They are indoctrinating young minds throughout the West with their resentment-ridden ideology. They have made it their life's mission to undermine Western civilization itself, which they regard as corrupt, oppressive, and patriarchal. If you're a taxpayer, or paying for your kid's liberal arts degree, you're underwriting this gang of nihilists.
So, only liberal arts? Sheesh, it's almost comical. We don't even need Peterson for this video, we just run the ideology.
It's like you don't even need him. You just have to run the ideology.
Gang of nihilists.
Hey you, give me all your money and come study sociology. No thank you, I'd rather pursue a STEM program and become an astronomer. That's okay, man. Nothing really matters in life anyway. Yes, I know. In the end, the inevitable heat death of the universe will cause all matter to come to a halt. That's not exactly how it works. Maybe you should pursue a higher education. But I appreciate the point you're trying to make. Do I even have a point if nothing matters? Oh my god, I think I'm in love with you. The universe may reach a heat death, but baby, when I'm with you, I feel another big bang coming on. My astronomical body is ready. Oh god, where was I? Oh right. Lies!
They are indoctrinating young minds throughout the West.
As he appears in a PragerU video, in YouTube ads, on a massive platform that caters to millions of children every day. In fact, you can even scroll down a little bit further and see Join Prager Force for students. Join our educators network. Time to wise up indeed.
They are the postmodernists, pushing progressive activism at a college near you.
Hey, you know, it's funny that he mentions this, because I went to college, and one thing that I learned was just how easy it is to buy fentanyl!
They produce the mobs that violently shut down campus speakers.
Violently shut down isn't exactly honest, is it? I've never seen flames and riots over anything like that. I don't know, it's been a while since I've been to university, but last I checked, Arizona State hasn't burned down yet. I don't know, Petey, maybe if you don't want people to interrupt you, maybe you shouldn't go to colleges and yell at people on the sidewalk like a lunatic.
The reason I'm defending freedom of speech, because that's how people with different opinions settle their opinions in a civil society.
Get an actual venue and host your event in there. I know you do it. It's not that difficult. And when people act up, kick them out. But if you did that, you probably wouldn't be provoking emotional people to confront you, and that wouldn't look as good on YouTube. When you go outside in a public space, you're just kind of inviting anybody to come up to you, you know, and exercise their freedom of speech.
The language police, who enshrine into law use of fabricated gender pronouns.
Yeah.
Well, Bill 16, C-16 and the Ontario Human Rights Code do not actually legislate pronoun usage.
The pronoun issue is really a red herring.
They don't specify 31 genders or anything of the kind.
Huh. It's almost like he lied.
And the deans whose livelihoods depend on madly rooting out discrimination, where little or none exists.
You know, there's a funny thing I've noticed about bigots and racists. They never actually realize that they're being bigots or racist. A dean is usually a department head at a university. They have responsibilities in administrative, financial, and managerial tasks. Yeah, that's a lot of work. You know, it kind of says a lot more about you if you think that their livelihoods depend entirely on rooting out discrimination, especially where none exists.
Their thinking took hold in Western universities in the 60s and 70s, when the true believers of the radical left became the professors of today.
Was this made by Nixon? I'm assuming that this cartoon strawman is meant to be a Vietnam protester. Therefore, he must support communism.
And now we rack up education-related debt.
Oh wow, it sounds like you're about to criticize capitalism.
Not so that our children learn to think critically, write clearly, or speak properly, but so they can model their mentor's destructive agenda.
Oh, no, they're postmodern neo-Marxists.
It's now possible to complete an English degree and never encounter Shakespeare. One of those dead white males whose works underlie our society of oppression.
Yo, J-Dog, if you think that, you've clearly never spent any time around theater majors. They love Shakespeare. I'm a little weirded out by how much some love Titus Andronicus. You ever read that, Petey? I don't think you'd like it. I mean, some of his works did underlie our society of oppression. Have you read The Merchant of Venice? The evil money-lending Jew craves human flesh and is forcibly converted to Christianity. Spoiler, I guess. I know you said English degrees and not theater degrees, but wouldn't it be a little more surprising if someone somewhere could complete a theater degree without seeing Shakespeare, as opposed to completing an English degree without seeing Shakespeare? Yeah, he's influential to both, but I feel like the degree to which Shakespeare was influential is a lot higher in theater than it is in English. I mean, it's still pretty high in English, but... Oh right, he wouldn't know any of that. His doctorate is in psychology. Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him, Horatio. Looks like he should have quit while he was ahead.
To understand and oppose the postmodernists, the ideas by which they orient themselves must be clearly identified. First is their new unholy trinity of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
How evil!
Diversity is defined not by opinion, but by race, ethnicity, or sexual identity.
It sounds like he wants affirmative action for conservatives. Personally, I don't want to work with someone who thinks bragging about grabbing them by the pussy is acceptable workplace conduct. But I guess that makes me an evil postmodern neo-Marxist feminist. Whatever. If only there were universities for conservatives. It's not like that's a thing.
Equity is no longer the laudable goal of equality of opportunity, but the insistence on equality of outcome.
Equality of outcome is a nice bromide, but if universities cared about equality of outcome, then they wouldn't have grades.
And inclusion is the use of identity-based quotas to attain this misconceived state of equity.
I don't know, man. I went to Arizona State, and they took everyone. It sounds like this is really overblown. Oh no, some poor brown people went to college. We need full fascism.
All the classic rights of the West are to be considered secondary to these new values. Take, for example, freedom of speech, the very pillar of democracy.
Really? When did that start being a thing?
The postmodernists refuse to believe that people of goodwill can exchange ideas and reach consensus.
Yeah, the problem with that, I don't think most people have goodwill. Jordan Peterson certainly doesn't. PragerU doesn't. And even I'm kind of on the edge nowadays.
Second is rejection of the free market.
There it is again. Everyone I don't like is a communist. Oh wait, no, he didn't say that. I'm misrepresenting him. I'm taking him out of context. I need to watch another 2,000 hours of this garbage.
They won't acknowledge that capitalism has lifted up hundreds of millions of people, so they can, for the first time in history, afford food, shelter, clothing, transportation, even entertainment and travel.
You ever notice that when people get engaged in these silly arguments, they only ever point out the positives of capitalism to praise it, but they only point out the negatives of communism to condemn it? It's never an honest weighing of the successes and failures of each. You know, the life expectancy in Cuba is higher than the United States. Aha! Clearly capitalism has failed. This radical leftist just owned you, Jordy. Put that in your compilation video, suckers! I wrote that before that clip of Destiny fact-checking Charlie Kirk went viral. I should be getting these videos out sooner. I apologize to my nearly 200 subscribers that my health is severely limiting to me.
Meanwhile, in once prosperous Venezuela,
Oh, there it is!
until recently the poster child of the campus radicals, the middle class lines up for toilet paper.
Huh. Hey, he didn't actually say what was going on in Venezuela. It's just toilet paper.
Oh, I guess that makes sense though. But Peterson is pouring propaganda out of his postmodern posterior pooper all the time. He has so much coming out, I bet he's constantly thinking about toilet paper. It's something I do a lot. May I recommend baby wipe? They don't even say what exactly about Venezuela is so socialist. Honestly, before the last recent year or two, I don't think I've ever heard any Americans talk about this country. The most conversation I've had about Venezuela is in reference to the video game Mercenaries 2. That's it. It's not exactly a poster child for me.
Third and finally are the politics of identity. Postmodernists don't believe in individuals. You're an exemplar of your race, sex, or sexual preference.
No. These things contribute to your experiences and your character, but nobody believes people are automatons. Well, okay, I guess some people believe that. It sounds like you're focusing on some vocal minority groups, just so you can rile up others who are scared at seeing something new and strange to them.
You're also either a victim or an oppressor. No wrong can be done by anyone in the former group, and no good by the latter.
I know people like Peterson, and I would say conservatives, but it applies to a lot of people. They have really poor understandings of power dynamics, but whether or not someone is a victim or an oppressor is a bit more complex than he would have you think. He's just saying this once again, so he can, once again, strawman and dismiss people he doesn't like. Clearly you can be a member of a historically oppressed group and still be oppressive, or at least still be a shit person.
Such ideas of victimization do nothing but justify the use of power and engender intergroup conflict.
Justify the use of power and engender intergroup conflict. To me, that sounds a lot like someone saying, "Oh God, why did you bring race into this? You're the real racist!"
All these concepts originated with Karl Marx, the 19th century German philosopher.
No. It's not like the Western nations you spend so much time fantasizing about are born out of a religion that was born out of oppression, and that would then turn around and oppressed everybody else. Again, may I recommend The Merchant of Venice? But this is actually just another rant he does about communism. He's not that smart.
We fought a decades-long Cold War to stop the spread of those murderous notions.
I feel like it's the obvious joke here, but by definition we did not fight the Cold War. I suppose you could say the FBI did. Walt Disney helped. Besides, a lot of the fighting we did do is now regarded extremely negatively. Oh, wait a minute. Do I think that because I've been indoctrinated by my teachers who are actually postmodern neo-Marxists? Leave a comment if you think we could have won Vietnam.
But they're back, in the new guise of identity politics.
Maybe I'm being mean and Peterson is going senile, but it seems to me that identity politics is code for these people are working together and I don't like it and I can't stand to mount any actual criticisms against them. Have you ever considered that maybe, just maybe, politics affects people? Radical hot take, I know. And that maybe some of the people who are the most affected by it feel the need to do something about it? And that a lot of these people realize that under democracy, maybe it's a good idea to work together? Of course you haven't thought about that. This is a Peterson PragerU propaganda piece. Yeah, those universities are just so murderous. I'm not saying that he's manipulating people, but he readily admits all the time that his specialty is in psychology. And he's doing propaganda now. What other conclusions am I to draw from this? Alright, let's take a sidestep here and talk about something related. You might have seen this tweet by Peterson where he claims that those who call someone a climate change denier are trying to associate them with Holocaust deniers. A lot of people have already given the obvious takes on this and how absurd it is. But I've been doing a lot of research into Peterson and the people surrounding him lately. And there are a few things I'd like to say that I haven't quite seen others bring up. For starters, Ben Shapiro made the exact same claim.
Right, so everything that the left says about climate change is basically, you're a climate change denier, therefore you're a fool. Right? I'm sorry, it's not Holocaust denial. The use of the language denier is pretty ridiculous on its face.
Ben Shapiro has also appeared in PragerU ads. But I'm not going to get too deep into Ben in this video. So keeping this in mind, we know that oil companies have known the causes and effects of climate change for decades, and that they have funded massive disinformation campaigns and bought off lobbyists and politicians so that they can keep making their massive profits without having to face any actual consequences for the damage they cause. They don't want the government to force them to pay for any externalities. So bearing that in mind, it may humor you to know that PragerU receives regular donations from the Wilks brothers, two multi-billionaires who have earned their riches through hydraulic fracking. According to this Rewire article, PragerU has received $6.5 million from the Wilks brothers by 2015, 3 years ago. 3 years ago, and before Trump. And Peterson has worked for PragerU. So if we were to have a chart here, we'd have the Wilks brothers, PragerU, Peterson. The money's trickling down like hydraulic fracking fluid. And like hydraulic fracking, Peterson's been causing earthquakes on the internet. Alright, keep that in mind. Let's move on to the next video. Peterson has another PragerU video titled, Fix Yourself.
Blaming others for your problems is a complete waste of time. When you do that, you don't learn anything. You can't grow and you can't mature. Thus, you can't make your life better.
Great! Now, I don't completely disagree with this. It's healthy to strive and improve yourself, but that's a lifelong thing. It's something you should constantly be doing.
You can't change other people, but you can change yourself.
If we all only did that, then evil people would dominate all of us. And while the logic here isn't inherently wrong, you can't apply it to everything. Peterson, later in this video, creates an extreme straw man and starts to use this better yourself argument to discredit others.
Consider the youthful activist making a statement against the corrupt capitalist system.
Oh hey, it's me!
By smashing in the storefront of a local business.
Oh! So before he even makes a point here, this implies youthful activists, people wearing bandanas, and people protesting corruption and capitalism are all violent and they all terrorize small business owners, God's chosen people. That's a heck of a straw man.
What has he done other than to bring harm to people who have nothing to do with his real problems?
If I only had a brain.
Now, most of the rest is fine, but I'm just going to skip to the end here.
The proper way to fix the world isn't to fix the world. There's no reason to assume that you're even up to such a task.
Consider that line in the context of him being paid by PragerU and them being paid by the Wilks brothers. Consider that line in reference to his comments on climate change. Consider that he has outright dismissed activists who care about climate change as being anti-capitalist.
I find it very difficult to distinguish valid environmental claims from environmental claims that are made as a, what would you call it, secondary anti-capitalist front, essentially.
I think you're probably smart enough to know what I'm getting at.
Now, there are people who seem to be consigned to a terrible fate.
Gee, you don't say. You know, I remember learning a while back that apparently a lot of children use YouTube. Like, a shocking amount. You may have heard of all those weird videos made for children. The Spider-Man and Elsa videos. And the Paul brothers. And honestly, I don't think it's millions of adults watching these videos of people playing Minecraft or Fortnite. And I'm assuming that these PragerU folks also know this. So they hired our dear Jay Peterson to make 2 such videos. The fact that he's even working with them shows that he's not caring to hide his political motivations anymore. Even though I'm sure some of his flock will still respond to this and call him apolitical and say I'm misrepresenting him and I'm stupid. I wish colleges were filled with more communists. Maybe then they wouldn't be so damn expensive.
Once again, thanks for watching to the end. If you enjoyed this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, or whatever it is we're doing. This will be the last Peterson video for a while. I'm gonna start seeing other, younger, more delicious people